All right, good morning and welcome. Today is Thursday, July 18th, 2019. It is 8:34 a.m. We're in the city chambers. I call the city commission special meeting to order. Those present with me are Commissioner Luke, Vice Mayor McDowell, myself, Mayor Hanks. Commissioner Carasone, for the record, is here on time today, so I wanted to make sure that was there. So we do have it. We have Commissioner Emmerich, City Manager Lear, City Attorney Slayton, Deputy Clerk Taylor, and Ms. Ida is down here helping us out. Appreciate that. We have Chief Garrison there in the back, and Chief Titus is back there along with multiple staff. So we're ready to get started. If you could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? If Mr. Emmerich would lead that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm getting approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
Have a motion on the floor by Vice Mayor, seconded by Commissioner Carasone, I heard first.
So they're gonna have to change it.
There we go. We'll go with Jill, Luke. Is that all right?
Doesn't matter to me, you know
All
that.
right. Let's
Pretty easy.
Let's take the vote. And that passes unanimously. Move on to public comment. Vice Mayor, do we have anything?
Cards.
All right, and we'll move on to general business, discussion of possible action to provide a letter of support to the Florida League of Cities. I'll let City Manager introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the item that was discussed very recently. Added. The request was to add a resolution, but due to the posting requirements of a resolution being 5 days, that could not be met. So what we've had on here is a letter of support that will be followed with a resolution on Tuesday's meeting. But that way we could get something for the Florida League of City meetings that are tomorrow in Orlando, as well as have a resolution before the August Florida League of Cities conference, annual conference, since that'll be the last time you all meet before then. But I do have Captain Bote here who helped draft this letter. Actually, didn't just help, he did it.
Who did the letter? Yeah. Well, and the city attorney.
With the city attorney's office, they work together. On the resolution part, they're working very closely. So one thing I do want, before I bring Captain Bote up, mention that the letter that's in your backup does have a scrivener's error in the second to last paragraph, I believe it is. It refers to the wrong Florida statute. It says the last three are .183, it should be .173. We have a corrected version of that will be the one that's actually put on letterhead and signed if you all approve doing this. Bring Captain Bote up and tell you a little bit about it.
Very little.
Ready? As you'll see in the letter, and you'll see even in more detail in the resolution that's going to come before you, is there's been some changes as a result of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Public Safety Commission that analyzed the shooting that occurred obviously down in Broward County that took so many lives from us. And in that commission, they looked at multiple facets of what went wrong with that, as well as what went right. And one of the areas that, of course, stood out is communication. When you have multiple jurisdictions and police fire in any given area, you're going to have sometimes communication issues. We're no stranger to that here in our own county, having multiple law enforcement and public safety agencies within Sarasota County government. And, of course, just bordering to the south of us, Charlotte County being a city that borders another neighboring county. Well, what this statute did and the legislator did this year is they rushed through legislation that placed some additional requirements on public safety answering points. The city of Northport has a secondary public safety answering point. As we all know, we provide our own law enforcement dispatch services here and 911 services to our residents within Northport. What it did, though, is highlight a little bit more scrutiny on the statute. And 365-173 has been around for quite some time, the 911 and E911 statute. And what that statute's done for many years is take surtaxes that are on your landline telephones, fax telephone lines, as well as your cellular telephones, and have money set aside to help fund public safety dispatch centers for 911 services, dispatch services, and so forth. That statute's kind of slid under the radar of a lot of municipalities for many years because it really hadn't been on the forefront of it. And now with this new legislative that was added to that chapter under 365.177 as well as 179 with some additional new requirements, there was no funding attached to those. So municipalities that we've contacted, such as the city of St. Petersburg, the city of Bradenton, for example, of two within our region, looked at the statute and, well, now we're getting new requirements, but no funding. Well, we clearly think the legislator thinks we're getting funding out of 173 because of, that's the chapter they put it into with these new requirements. When in fact, the statute mandates the money go to the counties, but there's no mention in the statute about any formula or mechanism for the counties to then send money on down to the cities for us to fund what our obligations are. So it ends up being unfunded mandates to the cities, but yet the counties have funding to make these statutorily changes. But it also highlights what we haven't been getting over all these years. Just a quick synopsis of looking at 2015 alone of the average monthly monies received by Sarasota County from these 911 fees has been in the average range back then of $180,000 a month. And we don't get a penny of any of that. And of course, statutorily, there's no requirement that they send this money down. A further look around the state finds that it's all over the place as the relationships and the money that some counties do give to the cities. To the south, we know down in Lee County, the city of Fort Myers is upgrading their dispatch center. I believe the tune of $750,000 was provided to them out of their E911 fees. So significant amounts of money are out there. And that's what we're looking to do, is have the statute amended. So that way there's some type of mechanism or formula to where the cities get some type of monies back for what our residents are actually putting back into this fund, so we can actually help offset some of the costs we have that maintaining our own dispatch center.
Thank you. Commissioner Luke?
I understand, it's important to send the letter and the resolution and that, but have we spoken with the county in regards to this? I mean, do we have any feedback from them?
Yes. Matter of fact, when we first started looking into this, we first reached out to the state, to the 911 program. It's managed by the Florida Department of Management Services, the DMS office. And they basically told us, yes, that the money comes in, it goes to the counties, we need to reach out to the county. Prior to ever reaching out to the county, word had trickled down to the county that we were inquiring, and they actually reached out to us about the same time as we were getting to reach out to them. We did sit down with them. They've told us we've never asked for anything. Well, I don't think people before us really even knew to ask until this came about. There was also never any offers to give us anything either. So it's one of those things that, well, if you don't ask, well, it's my opinion. If you don't ask, we're not going to tell you that this money's here. So to answer your question, yes, we have started that dialogue, but there's not been really any fruitful discussion yet as far as the big ticket items that we're looking at.
I know there needs to be an overall formula that's statewide for this, so I know it has to go to that level, but the county is sort of a parent to us, so I was wondering what our mom and dad had to say. Thank you.
I just wanted to add that what they did tell us, though, is that they can't give us any money. But if we want something, then we can request it to them, and they can try to budget for it and then give us the item or equipment. We can go that route, i.e. the chairs that we were talking about.
Commissioner McDowell?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to review the agendas for Tuesday's meeting. When is the resolution on to be approved?
It will be on, it's not on there yet because the city attorney is still working to get it finalized. So it'll be done, I believe, the budget or the resolution is going to be done today or tomorrow.
It would have to be because there's a
Because it's a
5-day
five-day
lead to
notice.
So we have to amend the meeting to get it on there, or the agenda.
Thank you for that clarification. Based on your comment that we didn't know to ask and they didn't offer, I wonder how many other scenarios that would fall into. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have anybody else?
Nope.
Nope, all right.
I will make a motion to provide the letter of support to the Florida League of Cities in the efforts for municipalities to receive fair funding due to the E911 laws.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner Carrasone, seconded by Vice Mayor McDowell. Anything to that, Commissioner?
Yeah, I just want to thank the police department, Northport PD and their representatives who have brought this to our attention, because quite honestly, I always thought we got a fair share
Just like anything else, gas tax, the communications tax, it all has this equitable fair share calculation to it. And to find out that we have a revenue stream that's coming in that our taxpayers are paying, but yet we're not seeing some sort of distribution from it was quite shocking, honestly. So I want to thank you all for your diligence, for being on top of this, and for working so quickly at trying to get something so that, because it really was last minute. And I thank you all.
Thank you.
And thank you, City Attorney, for working on this. I know you're way overburdened with everything we've put upon you, and for putting this in the forefront, I appreciate it wholeheartedly.
Commissioner McDowell?
Got nothing, thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Luke?
I want to, on top of what Commissioner Carazona said, I want to thank past Commissioner Linda Yates. She's over there working with you guys, and those flags fly up, and I believe she's the one that actually made the presentation in the meeting that Commissioner Carazona was in attendance in. So it's nice to know that she's still watching out for the citizens in the city in the new position that she's in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have nothing, so let's take the vote.
Oh, there it goes.
That passes unanimously. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item B, discussion regarding a potential donation of $33,500 from the Trust for Public Land and Gulf Coast Community Foundation. City Manager, please introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor. You all, a email was sent from the Trust for Public Land and Gulf Coast Community Foundation offering to give the city $33,500 towards the use of a connector bridge over in the Deer Prairie Creek area to hopefully at some point be a connector for the Legacy Trail. They asked if they could present that here, and they are here to present that to you all. So this was added to the agenda for that.
Can I ask one question before we get the presentation? Is there any caveats to that other than using it for the connection trail?
That's,
Happy to talk to that point.
yep, that is a question they will be able to answer.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure if you were doing a presentation, or we were just doing a, you know what I mean? Okay,
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
sorry.
I want
morning.
to thank them before they start for coming in early, because this was scheduled at 9 o'clock. So we swung things around because of a commissioner needing to
Yeah,
leave.
to get to
so-
the doctor in like, half hour.
I hope everything
And
is
soda,
okay.
soda.
So thank you for adjusting your time for us.
No, yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Good morning. I am Doug Hadaway with the Trust for Public Land. John Thaxton next to me with the Gulf Coast Community Foundation. For those that don't know, and this isn't a 10-minute, 15-minute presentation. This is just an opportunity to see you all and provide the offer for a donation for the purposes I'll clarify in a moment. We are a national nonprofit land conservation organization. Briefly and grossly oversimplified, stated as we just try to connect people with the land through conservation, real estate acquisitions, and also through the construction of parks and all of the research and planning and mapping and everything that goes along with that kind of work. So we are very pleased to have been a principal player, one of many partners involved with not only the original Legacy Trail purchase back in the mid-2000s, 2004, 2005-ish, but also with the recently completed acquisition of the Legacy Trail extension, of which you're very well familiar, which was actually closed. We sold the corridor to the county, having ourselves purchased it from the railroads prior to that, to the county on June the 27th. So we, of course, that also involved a very public ballot measure that you're all familiar with, that passed overwhelmingly by the public by over 70% approval to fund the purchase and construction of the Legacy Trail extension. As you know, as part of that public outreach and in the ballot language itself, thanks to some of the work of some of the commissioners here today, there was also a set-aside of some of those funds specifically earmarked to connect the Legacy Trail to the city of Northport proper. And so we, of course, worked with many partners on that ballot measure, including the Friends of Legacy Trail, the Gulf Coast Community Foundation, the Conservation Foundation of the Gulf Coast, who am I forgetting? My gosh forbid. But there were many partners, and we're proud to be one of those involved in getting that purchase completed. And now I understand that the county is looking by hiring a consultant by the name of Kimley Horn, who's also going to be designing the Legacy Trail that goes north into Payne Park, but is also currently looking at the feasibility of two alternative preferred routes that was openly advertised during the ballot measure campaign to connect the Legacy Trail to the city of Northport, going through either or the Deer Prairie Creek Preserve or the Shuey Ranch. And so both of those routes connect with the city of Northport. And I do understand that that's not final until everyone says it's final in terms of that exact connection point. But we believe it's likely that that would be the ultimately one of those two alternatives chosen routes to connect the Legacy Trail to the city of Northport. And both of those end at West Price Boulevard, the westerly end of that, where there used to be an EMS station previously on a lot that I believe is owned by the city of Northport. It would require both trailhead facilities as well as crossing that canal, to your point, Commissioner Carasone. And it is our intent that these funds, which is a joint contribution from both our organizations to the city of Northport, be used to help further that connection. So while I am saying, and we are saying, that it's expected it would be used to construct a bridge, and I understand that bridges are more expensive than the amount of money that we're contributing, but we think that every little bit helps, and we believe it's also important to follow through with our public statements and our demonstrated commitment to seeing this thing completed and connecting with the city of Northport. So, restated more simply, intended to connect with the city of Northport, likely it would be over that R36 canal, connecting with some trailhead facilities at West Price Boulevard where it terminates there. But we're building in the flexibility that if ultimately it's concluded by the community that an alternative connection to city of Northport proper be chosen, that these funds could continue to be used for that purpose. So we are here to say thank you very much for this council's support in getting this ballot measure passed, getting this important community amenity in place for the enjoyment and betterment of the citizens and visitors of the city of Northport. And I'll stop there. And John, if you had a couple of points to add.
Just a couple. First, I'm here as a representative of the many citizens that advocated for this referendum to get this passed. We made a commitment, I personally made a commitment to this commission, that you would be seeing me after the passage of the referendum, and that we would be diligent until we made that connection to Northport. So we will continue that. And in this particular case, we're also bringing a little bit of money to the table to help grease the wheels and get it going. This is not dissimilar to what Gulf Coast has done in other cases on the Legacy Trail, where we have given money to the Trust for Public Lands to kind of kickstart the engineering and the surveying work that has to be done. Sometimes the governments don't have budgets for it. You have to wait and you have to go through a process where we can just simply write checks and get it started.
What a nice
So we
life.
appreciate, we appreciate.
nice.
I like his job.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
right?
want that.
Well, I meet with
Checks.
Peter,
Little
I meet with
jealous.
Peter on a regular basis, and we talk over Northport needs
Yeah.
and try to strategize as so that we can best allocate the monies that Gulf Coast have that we want to invest in Northport, because you're a very important neighbor to us in Venice. And I'd just like to close with two unrelated points. First off, I'm sitting here looking at the 10-year-old Because It Mattered Gulf Coast Initiative, the civility
Oh my
initiative.
gosh,
So
yeah,
that's-
right?
That's kind of cool.
Yep.
We do have an updated version if you would like it. It's a little more cartoonish. And also yesterday, Gulf Coast got the approval to write a letter of support for Northport's application for the job growth that you're working on off of Sumter Boulevard. So that will be going to the governor's office probably tomorrow. So, appreciate it.
Can I ask just two questions? First of all, John, Commissioner Thaxton, there's still the pictures
The
are still
posters?
in the hallway.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Anyways, the money that's going to be given as a donation, is there a time frame that it must be spent? Those are the caveats that I was worried about.
Our funding has
because-
no time restraints.
Okay,
Is that the
yeah,
same
because
with
you
the
know,
other?
Right.
with the county, we've been trying to get some sort of a plan together to make a determination, but they want to do that long-term plan kind of look overview first before we have a joint meeting. So I don't know when this is gonna be accomplished, you know what I mean?
If I can just go out on a little bit of a limb here, as we discussed before the referendum, it is my personal belief that it is not a matter of either or. I believe that Northport needs both of those
Oh,
connections.
absolutely, yep.
It's just a matter of which one.
Which
we-
comes
we
first,
do
yeah, yeah. Well, and I appreciate you all for making sure that Northport is a priority, because I think that, I mean, when this all started, the first thing, both of you came to us, number one, and said, hey, how can we help with answering these questions and through the referendum? And I just appreciate that, because for a very long time, Northport wasn't considered as someone that needed to be in the know, you know, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McDowell.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much for coming down and doing this for our city and helping make this come to fruition. A small donation goes a very long way, and I am very grateful for your foresight and wanting to help our city with this connection to the Legacy Trail. Hopefully, it'll be completed sooner than later, but I do appreciate you coming down personally and making this presentation and being part of the process, so thank you.
Thank
Thank you, guys. Commissioner Luke.
I think it's a mighty donation. I mean, it is the money that an engineer that, I mean, it would take care of that part of something. So to me, that's a tremendous start. And you gentlemen are top notch. Who you are, what you do, the way you display your community, your love for the earth and the environment. You're above reproach in my book. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Emmers, you have anything?
Yeah, thank you very much. I look forward to getting this plan in process and seeing it come to fruition. I really do. Yeah, I'm excited about it. So thank you all very much for all the help and everything that you do.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and thank you guys for your passion and heart and all this. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
All right.
very much.
Have a good morning.
Have a
Thanks
great
for coming
meeting.
down so early.
Check is in the mail.
Yes. Yeah,
It's in the mail.
Actually, the first check should be arriving by 10 a.m. overnight mail, and then the second check, and it had to do with just combining the funds together while it's being issued in two checks, would be coming probably about a week to 10 days later. So Commissioner McDowell, I think the first check was addressed to your attention, so please look for that. Should be here soon. Thank you.
Is the check made out to me?
If I have a pen if it's necessary, but otherwise, yes.
I'll make sure it gets to the city
Get a
manager.
percentage, just saying.
Built the bridge.
Oh, kind of like the ice.
Place it in the account that gets the most and highest
Interest, that's right. I'll make sure the city manager gets it. Thank you very much.
All right. I do not believe item C applies to us today. Is that accurate, or is there something you would like to discuss on it?
I'm done discussing it, unless you guys have more you want. I think we finished yesterday, but that's a decision you all get to make.
All right.
Finance came down just
yep.
for the fun of it.
Commissioner Luke?
No, go ahead. You hit.
Yeah, there were a couple of things that I wanted to bring back up. One, because I've had some follow-up discussions after the discussion on the second plaque for
I was
the
gonna say
pool.
that too.
I actually want to change my vote on it. I want to be a negative on that vote. I don't know, I mean, it's going to take some research to find out who all placed money, because I know Commissioner Carazone stated there was a commission in 2008 that did. I'm finding out that there was another commission that put money in between the two. And so with that, going into the research, you may end up with 3 plaques with 3 commissions on it.
That's not true.
So I want to change my vote to a no, and I just want to personally myself abide by the way it's written in the code currently.
Where was our consensus at? Does anybody know? Because I forgot.
It was
Did we do
unanimous.
some-
That we would
Okay.
have a second plaque for the
Okay.
commission that
I wasn't
had
sure.
actually budgeted for it, and it was in 2008-9. It's the same people that served 8 and 9.
Well,
Those
the
people
commission
actually-
after did it too.
2010,
No,
because that's who's after.
exactly. That commission put in 2 million, I was told.
No, that was, well, I
So-
mean, it was in the 2010 budget, but it was a
That's when-
2008,
Well, it was removed
9.
and then put back in is what I was told.
Oh, yeah, that didn't happen.
So,
No.
I mean, going through all of that kind of research, no, I would rather just stick with the way the code is written. It opens the door and sets a precedent that you go back and look at every project to see, well, was it funded previously? And should we have a second plaque because they thought of it? And so I just wanted to change mine.
Yeah, the original funding and engineering was actually accomplished by the 8-9 commission, and the project for the Morgan Center all had the engineering and the electric run to the site for the aquatic center, and therefore the ordinance is specific for those who actually were part of the original funding. So, I mean, it's not that, city manager, is it that tough to find out who was part of the original funding?
Original, does, once it stopped, does that mean that we're not part of it? I mean, it's the interpretation that goes into this, and it's opening this box to me that,
All right, I can't spend any more time on this.
My-
My vote hasn't changed, but
Can I ask a question though? It wasn't the original intent was on this, was the original starting out and then the completion? Those were the two plaques?
well, the one plaque already exists.
Okay.
And
So you just wanted to go back to the original
I
starting
just wanted
point?
a secondary plaque for those who originated this project, who originated the budgeting, who originated the actual jobs that were completed, because the site was prepped and it was, all of the stuff, the infrastructure was run during 2010. And then it wasn't until 2011-12 when the funding was pulled. And it was not put back in until 2016.
Commissioner McDowell?
I'm shocked that Commissioner Luke had brought this up because I was going to bring it up too. I had already sent an email to the city manager requesting additional information. I don't know if you've had a chance to review that email. Looking for the CIP sheets, the actual policy relating to the plaques, because until I see the actual documentation, I'd like to hold my vote until I see the actual documentation that I requested from the city manager. So I don't know if the plaque has already been purchased or discussed or put into place, but I really think it is in this board's best interest to make sure the funding, when it was put in place, who put it in place before this plaque is actually purchased. And all I'm asking for is additional time to see and share with all of us that documentation. So there is no question.
That was part of the consensus, so.
I don't think the request for additional information was part of the consensus.
Actually.
So the way I understood the meetings that we had and your request for information that I did get last night, I sent you the resolution.
Oh, I haven't.
A good 5 minutes ago.
Sorry, I haven't had a chance to review it.
3 resolution is when the resolution was adopted that basically talks about who goes on there, and it says the city commission named will be the commission who approved the budget for the project and shall be listed in the following manner. Chair, vice chair, and remaining commissioners in alphabetical order. So it's probably one of the shortest resolutions we have, because it doesn't say a whole lot more than that. That being said, I have started researching when the project was budgeted. I don't have a full answer because projects, it looks like it may have been the 2010-11 year. There's money that goes in that year. There's also another CIP money that shows prior year funding. One of the questions you asked was this part of the referendum for the aquatic? It was not. That was a separate project, so it doesn't relate to that. Like I say, I'm trying to find the original project.
You
I
gotta
know
look
it
at the
was-
Morgan Center, by the way, because it was part of the Morgan Center prep plan.
And that will require a whole different level of research to see what was part of that. because we do have CIP projects for, at one point, we called it a Spring Haven Aquatic Facility. At one point, it got called a Butler Park Aquatic, or Pool. It has, the names change. I don't know who the innocent was that we were trying to protect, but the name has changed multiple times. Yes, the project was unfunded somewhere around 2012. I know it was somewhere around that time frame that the funding was freed up and used for other purposes. And then, yes, you all were here when it was refunded.
So if I may, Mayor, can we get that information to make sure that all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed before a plaque is put up? Make sure if a second plaque is warranted, who actually goes on that, if that's needed and warranted?
I thought that was part of the consensus.
Not for the additional information, ma'am. The
For
consensus.
who was there and who should be on that plaque was exactly part of the consensus. I mean, we can have the city clerk probably read
It
it
was,
back.
that was stated to find out who was,
Yeah.
who was on.
But I want
And
to
that's
make
why I
sure about the
hesitated.
funding part of it.
That was, yeah, that was part of
I think what's different in what you guys are saying is whether or not it comes back to you all before we order the plaque, the second plaque.
Oh, gotcha.
I'd like to see
Was
the
to do the
information.
research, and basically we would figure out who that was.
And what do you do if it's pulled, put back in, pulled, put back in?
That's
Exactly.
not addressed in the ordinance, so that's hence the reason why I wanted a second plaque. Because theoretically, that first commission who developed the Morgan Center, who developed the idea of the aquatic center and pool, that commission should be recognized in some way, shape, or form. But honestly, the 2016 commission is the one that brought it back and brought it to life. So having the plaque that already exists with the 2016 commission, I'm good with. I'm just saying that there should be a recognition of those who already started that process, who went out and collected surveys, that got involved with the youth board, were at every single community function to find out what people wanted, the ones that went and made sure that when we were designing the Morgan Center, that we had the appropriate infrastructure run to that site and the appropriate level of fill so that we could go ahead and fulfill that aquatic center / pool. That's what I'm saying. Those people
Did it go
had
to a vote
foresight.
during that time?
No, it was a commission directive. And it was budgeted 2 million. And it came out, it was part of the Morgan Center project phase. And it was directly after we had the Parks and Recs master plan done. And I probably have something somewhere in my garage that has the information on it.
All that information is stuff we'll research. I can't tell you that I have the answer today.
I didn't
I
expect you
appreciate
to.
So basically, Mayor, if we could just hold off on the plaque until we get that information.
Well, it looks like to me, we just had a consensus to look into it and to bring back some, I mean, that's the way I understood our consensus, was that you're gonna look at it, you're gonna get the information, as Commissioner Carasone said, and I assumed we were gonna get a
I
memo. or
assumed we
would-
were just gonna get another plaque, but you needed to make sure
Right.
that the information was true and correct, and that secondary plaque would be, and it didn't matter. I mean, it didn't have to be in the forefront, it was just that there needed to be some sort of recognition.
And that's why I had to pull away, because I'm hearing that there's been monies put in by others, and to me, it's just too much. To me, it's simply just abide by the code that's in there. You can honor them during the ceremony, inviting them or whatever. I got no problem doing something like that, but to say that you're gonna ignore others who worked on it too.
No, I'm not saying that,
Opens
because
up
I
a
don't,
new
I mean,
can.
no, I'm not saying that at all.
I know, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, to me, it's too much. I wouldn't even have them work on it. That's why I'm a negative vote. because I wouldn't even have them work on it at this point.
Okay.
It's
Let's just,
too much.
I don't know, I gotta go.
Yeah, and to bring it a little bit into a different perspective,
Amazing how 24 hours can shift a personality.
Yeah.
we had put money in for the Northport Police Department renovations. We had put money in that budget, and then we took money out because the scope of the project changed. Does that then mean there's a plaque? So, and I can't believe a plaque is getting this much discussion, but I am just wanting to make sure about the funding, removal of funding, when it was funded,
just get-
and who funded it.
All right, because I think we had a consensus.
Yeah, we
but
did.
it Sounds like we just have two. It doesn't bother me if we have a second plaque. It doesn't matter to me.
No.
So I'm probably not going to change my vote.
I just want to get information
Right.
and see the information before they buy the plaque. That's all, that's
I
where
don't
I
even
was
mind that.
going
I don't
for
even mind
today.
that. Doesn't bother me either way.
But do I need a motion? Because I really
Get
need to
after
get going. Okay, so move to have the city manager look into where the originating budget was for the aquatic center, and I do believe it's called Spring Haven Aquatic Center at one point. And to have a secondary plaque of some sort created. And if there is a problem and that you see that there are other commissioners that divert from that secondary plaque, and that you would be concerned that a second and third plaque would be necessary, that per the ordinance, per the resolution though, then to bring that back to the commission. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. Does that, in other words,
I can state that much.
yeah, do I need to clarify? So in other words, it's my belief that the ordinance, that the resolution is very clear. It's the originating body who originally budgeted for it. Whoever came in and put ancillary money towards it after the fact is really nor here nor there. And that was the whole point of that being put in place. Then it gets pulled. Then the 2016 commission actually rebirths it, per se. But work had already been done with number one, and then the final work is done with number two. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that I think that both commissions need to be recognized. Now, if you find something that says something completely different, that says, oh, no, it was actually budgeted in 1977 or 1995 or, you know what I mean? That then I would say bring that back to the commission. But in the meantime, I think you're going to find, per the resolution, that there's only two commissions that will be able to be recognized. And so that's the intent of my my language. And so I'll restate it. That the city manager continue to work on a secondary plaque recognizing those commissioners who originally budgeted for the engineering and planning and design of the city's aquatic center in the Morgan Center / Butler Park area, to have a secondary plaque put in, doesn't matter where, and that if there is a problem or that there is found to have other issues that go beyond the singular additional plaque, that those are brought before the commission.
Do I have a second?
You have a second.
All right. Motion on the floor by Commissioner Carasone, seconded by Commissioner Emmerich. Commissioner Carasone, reason stated.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm just trying to make everybody happy, so.
Commissioner Emmerich, have anything?
The only thing that I was thinking about when she was speaking was, we were talking about a secondary plaque, for another commission, that's fine, but then we're talking about possible other people being involved in it as well. They could still go on the second plaque as all involved. You wouldn't have to have 2, 3, 4, or 5 different plaques. Just put everybody involved in the aquatic center from conception to fruition, and you got everybody covered.
Well, but
You're
the
getting
resolution
convoluted
is
again.
very clear. It's the originating,
And that's fine, so that's
you know
how
what
we're
I mean?
getting, we're
That's
getting
how it
that
works,
information.
so.
We're getting that information.
But you're right, if there's more than one, then they bring that back.
Correct. I'm good with it.
Commissioner McDowell?
Yeah, in the motion, it didn't say to bring it back prior to buying the plaque, so therefore I can't go with the
That
motion.
is just a common sense.
Okay, anybody else? All right, let's take the vote. And that passes 3-2 with Commissioner McDowell and Commissioner Luke dissenting. Commissioner McDowell, reason stated, or?
I just wanted the information ahead of time so that I could have a clean vote. This is not a clean vote.
Commissioner Luke?
I'd already stated mine.
Thank you. Okay.
And my personality didn't change in the past 24 hours. I felt the same way yesterday. I just was probably the last one to put the vote in and thought, well, man, I'm looking like the meanie here if I don't include other people. But during the past 24 hours, I have seen how convoluted it is with other past commissioners and who did this, who did that, what happened here, what happened there. And to me, it was just easier to leave the 2016 and let the sleeping dogs lie.
Thank you. All right, do we have any public comment, I don't think?
Don't have a card.
Thank you. Bye.
Any commission communications from anybody? Commissioner Luke?
Yes, within my communication, I want to bring up what happened yesterday with the Dallas White Pool. I don't know as we really truly know what the next month is going to bring until September 22nd. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't even aware what happened until late afternoon yesterday. But if the pool doesn't reopen, I'm curious because we had in the 17-18 budget $100,000 to close. It was called close.
Or rehabilitated.
Yeah, no, it was for the closing of it, and then it went out. But there is $150,000 comes from the county. If it is closed, could we not utilize 100 in order to do that process so that it doesn't have to be added to our budget? I mean, is there a way of asking for that and be utilized for that purpose?
You're talking about asking for the money from the county that goes to the Y?
For the use of the pool. I don't even know if it's viable, but, I mean, it is a thought, so I don't know if it could be used because, don't know.
Yeah. We can always ask as far as that goes. That
Because
money,
they were going to pay the $150,000 for one more year until the contract ended. So, I don't know. I mean, it would be a way to finalize it without it going into our budget, be utilizing those funds.
like you want to say something, but if you don't. No, you can always ask. It's unlikely that it'll be successful because that money was for the operation of a pool, not for the demolition of a city asset. I mean, it was to offset the YMCA's costs for operating that pool. The money doesn't come to us in the first place, but like I said, we can ask.
It's a three-way contract.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
There's no,
just a-
there's
it was
no
just a
mechanism to
thought.
do that under the contract. If the contract is terminated and the city wants to just request it of the county, that's extra contractual, so I don't see an issue with that. But there's no mechanism under the contract for the city to divert the funds that the county would pay to the YMCA.
Okay,
And the contract is at present still in effect.
correct. Thank you. That's all.
Commissioner McDowell?
No, along the same lines with the pool. Reading today's newspaper, I believe there's some misconceptions that are stated in the article. And I would like for the city manager or maybe staff to go on the record and elaborate on the chain of events that transpired for the public's consumption, because it's my understanding the city did not close the pool. We were going to close the pool, but there was a big difference. I believe there were some violations, minor violations, that could have limped the pool along until the 22nd of September. So if somebody could kind of fill in the blanks that are missing, I would be very grateful. And then I have a follow-up question after that.
Tricia is on her way down. I'll allow them to speak in just a minute. But the one thing I do want to say is, technically, yes, you're correct. The city did not close the pool on, was it Tuesday that you guys had the meeting? There was a meeting held at the YMCA. Our building official was there, RISC was there, our staff from Parks and Rec was there. They could be, some of them were here in the budget meetings with you all, and folks from the YMCA. Building official was given a lot of information about the safety of the water in the pool. We all know there's a flow issue, has been a flow issue for a long time. Building official stated, I'm going to paraphrase, but basically his intent was to close the pool the next day. Prior to him meeting with me the next morning, the YMCA already closed the pool, put a sign up, put an advertisement out, so they closed the pool before we could make a final determination. Our building official did issue a letter yesterday afternoon that he was going to close the pool. At that point, it was already closed. The YMCA had already taken the proactive approach of doing that and notifying the media and putting a sign up out there and everything. So prior to us closing it, they closed it. It is, a timing issue. That being said, I don't know that there's, with the direction of the commission to not invest large sums of money to keep the pool open, can't say that he wouldn't have closed it, and I don't know there's a way for us to reopen it. There is an appeal process, but it would require, like the building official talked about, there are a different filtration system that could be put in. These are thousands of dollars of equipment that our direction was not to do. But I'll let Tricia, she may know more about what was actually said in the meeting than I do.
I think city manager covered it actually really well. There were major concerns about how water is left when it is not circulated through a filtration system, and the fact that chemicals would not be evenly dispersed. We hear about chemical or bacteria all the time in swimming and how that can affect health and safety. And the building official came out, evaluated it, noted concerns, but as city manager stated, the YMCA closed it before the letter even went out.
Thank you very much for that concise update. I do appreciate it, because there's some misconceptions out there, and that irritates me when things are not reported and done in a factual, correct manner. So now that the pool is closed and this is a city asset, I assume there's still water in it, obviously, because nothing else has been done. I want to make sure that, because of the ownership and onus is on us, that pool is secured so that nobody can get access to that pool except city officials. And I'm wondering if that can be done like right now.
I'm sure the Y would feel the same way. They want the safety of everybody too.
Vice Mayor, actually, the onus is not on the city. The onus is on the lessee, which is the YMCA.
Okay.
The contract is still in place, so they have responsibility for maintaining, safeguarding, and securing the premises.
So the YMCA is still in control of operating the pool, even though the pool is not being operated, but they are responsible for maintaining the safety of the pool, making sure nobody gets in there?
That's correct. As long as that contract is in place, that is their duty under the contract.
Do you know if any measures have been taken to make sure that we don't have any trespassers? And I know that the responsibility is on them, but it is also a city asset. I'm really afraid something bad is going to happen.
I would expect that the YMCA is also, I mean, I think it's common knowledge of anyone who operates or even owns on private property that a pool can be an attractive nuisance and that, trespass, potential of injury is always there. But as long as the YMCA is a lessee under the contract, they have control over the property, and we don't have a right to interfere with that control. The city in its communications has made the YMCA aware that, reiterated the duties under the contract to safeguard and secure the premises.
Who is responsible for paying for the, I don't want to say destruction of the pool, because who's responsible for taking it out of operation? Because you're saying there's still a contract. Do we stop the contract? How does this legally work at this point?
Both parties have the ability to terminate the contract. I believe the city's ability to terminate the contract is with 30 days' notice. And without looking, I don't recall the YMCA's, I believe it's a longer notice period. So if that determination would come before the city commission as an item of business, and if the commission wanted to terminate the contract, then the city would provide the legal notice, and once that time was up, the city would retain its legal access to the premises.
So, pool's closed. There's still a contract in place, even though it's kind of like nothing's happening at the pool. So there's a contract without anything happening.
But there is still an option for something to happen. I mean, you might say realistically it's probably not going to. I'm not sure what the perception is. But under the building official's notice of violation, the YMCA has 10 days, which would have been from yesterday, to provide a mitigation plan and/or 21 days to appeal the building official's determination.
21 days to appeal.
Yes, ma'am.
So at this point, we really can't even terminate the contract because there is that appeal process in place.
No, I believe I'd have to review it. I looked at it yesterday, but not really with this eye. But I believe that the contract provides that we can terminate with 30 days' notice without a reason.
That is accurate.
So no, we don't necessarily have to wait for this process, but there are still steps that could be taken.
But based on the flow rate and the chemicals being dispersed correctly, it doesn't sound like this pool is ever going to reopen under these conditions. Is that a fair assumption, City Manager?
Based on the direction of to not invest money into it, I believe that is a fair assumption.
So what will it take do you need commission approval to terminate the contract, or is that something you do with your staff automatically?
My first step, I have not had the opportunity to review the contract to see what exactly it states. I would get with the city attorney to find out whose authority that is under. I know administration of contracts is mine. So if there's no possibility of this pool reopening, then I think it's a logical sense to just go ahead and terminate the contract so that we can then move forward.
Okay.
But it never hurts, obviously, to have the backing of the commission on such a high
Okay, so
item.
you know that if you need, here's where I'm going. We have one meeting left and then we break for August. And we don't come back until the beginning of September. That is a very long time. And I'm wondering, and you don't know because it's not in the contract, if you need commission approval to terminate the contract or not.
I think I have some idea of where you're going with this. If you want this obviously is an item that is of a discussion the commission wants to have. It hasn't been noticed at all.
Can we put this on July 23rd's meeting?
I
We
think
have
that's
to
where we're
amend
going.
one of them anyways
We
for
have to
this
amend the
resolution?
23rd anyway, so if you're asking, do we want to just add this as a discussion item?
Yes.
The commission can always give direction to terminate a contract. The question is whether or not I need that. If you'd prefer, we
Let's
can
have
go
this.
ahead and just add it to the 23rd. We are amending that agenda anyway for the resolution we discussed earlier this meeting. We can create an agenda item so that you all have a publicly noticed opportunity to have a conversation that you're already having right now, but
I think that would be wise. This will give the citizens an opportunity to weigh in and come forward with their concerns and everything. And I think that it could then be more, it's a cleaner way of doing this, I think. So maybe, Mayor, I don't know if you need, we have to probably do it by consensus. Can we get a consensus to have the city manager place the Dallas White Pool on the July 23rd commission meeting for discussion and action?
Commissioner Luke?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I would like to add, though, that because of that 10-day thing, I really don't know as I want to do anything during that 10-day spread. They may end up fixing the 2 minor ones, and, I mean, would it be allowed to be opened until the new pool opened? So I don't know what those answers would be. So I will say yes to bringing it up for discussion.
Okay, Commissioner Emmerich?
How many items we got on that meeting?
last count was 44, I believe,
There's the 2.
that day.
I'm a no to bring it up on Tuesday's meeting. I mean, we're so full and jam-packed for that. I'd rather put this off, let it go through the 30-day process, and then we can revisit it. That's just my opinion. I'm a no.
And I would be a no too, so that dies for Philippa.
I do have one comment, as long as she brought, not on that topic, but she brought up about an article. And I believe I read an article that said that we nixed the Tropicare multi-use sidewalk. And we did not nix
No,
it,
we
we
did
just pushed it out. So just in case somebody read that, you know, that project was all done.
It was
that-
axed.
what,
We
axed,
axed the
nixed,
whole
whatever.
project. It was
And
crazy,
no, it
the
wasn't.
headline.
It was just pushed out. Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner McDowell?
So based on the fact that we're not going to have any further discussion, city manager, the pool just stays in the YMCA's control?
We're going to have a conversation with the YMCA regardless of whether this gets added to the July 23rd meeting. A major event just happened yesterday, day before, whatever you want to call it. There's no way I can just leave that hanging out there without at least having a conversation with them. So no matter whether the intent or the direction was of the commission to send a letter or not, again, I still have to do my job. And when a major event like this happens, I'm going to contact the YMCA and ask them, so what, we can work together. I'm not going to have a battle out in the newspaper. That's not the way I work. I'm going to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, what do you guys want to do and what we can do? So that's where we're going to go from here.
Appreciate that.
I
Thank
can't
you.
give you more information than that because until I can talk to them, I just don't know.
Can I just, since you're already doing the biweekly updates for the aquatic center, can we add, because we're going on hiatus, can you add to that the Dallas White Pool and keep us posted as to what's going on with it?
We'll get you an update, yes.
Okay, whether it's in that
Yeah, it won't be in that
format
because
or,
that will just get lost.
okay, thank
We'll
you.
get you an update after I talk to them.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you, city manager. Thank you for the discussion. I think it was warranted.
Commissioner Emmerich, you have anything for communications?
sir.
I don't either. City manager, anything for communications? City attorney? See, all right. Well, with that, we're adjourned.
I've seen that.